It's been an interesting few weeks of stories relating to the military. First, Aaron Bushnell tragically lit himself on fire in protest of U.S. complicity in the war in Gaza. Now there are two more updates. First, according to the DOJ, an Air Force employee reportedly shared classified intelligence relating to the war in Ukraine on a foreign dating site. David Franklin Slater, a 63-year-old retired Army lieutenant colonel, transferred classified secret information to a woman living in Ukraine, according to an indictment out yesterday. The information included military targets and Russian military capabilities. Now, apparently, this wasn't especially sophisticated or subtle espionage. The alleged co-conspirator reportedly regularly asked Slater for secrets, calling Slater beloved, love, and my sweet Dave, according to the Washington Post. She even referred to Slater as my secret agent and my secret informant. Slater is being charged with 2 counts of unauthorized disclosure of national defense information and 1 count of conspiracy to disclose national defense information, per the Washington Post. He could face up to 10 years in prison.
Meanwhile, Jack Teixeira, the 22-year-old former Air Guard accused of leaking documents from the Pentagon, he pleaded guilty on Monday to the, quote, willful transmission and retention of national security information and accepted a sentence of up to 16 years in prison, per The Hill. Teixeira changed his plea to guilty in the Federal District of Massachusetts after pleading not guilty earlier last year. Now, under the plea agreement, the United States will not pursue charges against him under the Espionage Act, and he will also be required to turn over classified documents that he may still have. He'll also be fined $500,000 and have 36 months of supervised release, in addition to the between 11 and 16 years he might be sentenced to.
U.S. Attorney for Massachusetts Josh Levy said, quote, Jack Teixeira will never get a sniff of classified piece of information for the rest of his life. Teixeira collected military secrets and shared them with other users via social media platform Discord. Many Twitter users are comparing Teixeira's case to Donald Trump. One person writing on X, Jack Teixeira got 16 years in prison for sharing classified documents. When will Trump get a day in jail? Lock him up. People are tired of him and his threats. Who will have the courage to do what needs to be done? Exhausting. And another who said, if Jack Teixeira can face serious prison time for stealing and showing off highly classified docs on Discord, Trump can face serious prison time for stealing and showing off highly classified docs at Mar-a-Lago. All right, a lot in there. Now, we talked about the Teixeira story quite a bit when it happened, and if I recall correctly, a lot of the discourse was around the interest in kind of digging up his source, trying to figure out the source of the information, as opposed to the substance of what he was reporting, which was that there were American boots on the ground in Ukraine, which had been denied up until that point.
And it turned out that he had not really the kind of information that he had leaked did not put troops at risk, was not about, or U.S. assets, was not about like a list of people we have embedded in Russia or something. It was more generally perspectives of U.S. intelligence on what's going on in the war in Ukraine, showing very much that they doubted that counteroffensive was actually going to succeed, which was contrary to what they were saying in public. So I think it is worth wondering whether he is in fact a whistleblower who told the American public the truth, who revealed to them the truth that was being kept from us about what our own military advisors thought about the likely direction of the war in Ukraine. Which is not to say that no one should face any kind of consequence for releasing classified military secrets, but this is the problem, because when we've been misled over and over and over again by our government and by the so-called experts they rely on to dictate our foreign policy in Europe and in the Middle East and elsewhere, this has been going on for decades. It's who can you trust? And then you see the actual information, you find out, oh wow, they did mislead us yet again. So I think it's a worthy question to ask. 16 years is a long time. Now, he has not been sentenced yet. He pleaded guilty, which usually you do, and this is actually a problem with our system. No one can actually go to trial, face a jury, have a jury maybe confront the possibility that what he did, illegal though it was in the nation's best interest. That's not happening. Can't risk that because the sentences are so insane. You have to plead guilty and just make some deal with the governments for a reduced sentence. Now, so maybe it'll be further reduced from that. That seems like a long, long time to languish in prison for someone who, yes, broke the law, but told us something our own elected officials should have been brave enough to tell us.
Robbie, does the framing of this story as about a person who seemed to want to show off to his friends on Discord, as opposed to kind of leak to the press to get secrets out, a la Julian Assange, does that complicate a potential perception of him as a whistleblower? Because remember that was part of what was so bizarre about this, that there was a 22-year-old, a young man who seemed to just want to impress his friends with what he knew.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it doesn't change whether the information itself is relevant and pertinent to the American people. You know, people can end up doing important or brave things even for the wrong motivations, or because they can be deluded themselves, something like that. I don't know that it changes the case. It is also worth asking, like, if it's so important to keep this stuff secret, they did a pretty bad job. They allowed him to, like, I think he was photographing on his phone pictures of the documents, and then they were up on Discord for a long time, for weeks, I think, before anyone noticed them. So it is interesting. I would not like to see him get 16 years in prison or even 11 years in prison, frankly, for this kind of behavior. Well,
what do you make of this other story? Do you have the same level of sympathy for this honeypotted lieutenant general? Now, this is not a young man. This was a 63-year-old man, David Franklin Slater. He worked in a classified space and held top secret security clearance from about August of 2021 until about April of 2022, which is around the time that his relationship with this a mysterious Ukrainian woman came to a conclusion. This is all from the Washington Post. He previously held the rank of lieutenant colonel in the Army, but had retired from there in 2020. This is a man, top secret clearance, goes online, thinks he's talking to a woman who is asking him pretty explicitly, hey, my secret agent, will you tell me some intel today? And he complies?
He's not getting tricked. He's just giving up secrets willingly, right? So there was this whole discourse. I don't think we ended up talking about this on the show. This was maybe 2 weeks ago. Do you remember that New York, is it in The Cut, I think? It was New York Magazine, on that woman. She's a journalist. She's like a financial journalist, and she confesses to getting scammed for $50,000.
Oh, yes.
Did you read that story?
I didn't read it, but I remember the scuttlebutt.
I read the whole story, and they were very attacking her online about it. Like, people were making fun of her because she's someone who gives financial security advice, who was convinced, who received a call that her bank account had been hacked and was being used to fund criminal activity and terrorism, and she needed to put money in an envelope to help with the plot.
To be clear, it was like $50,000, right? And
people are saying, like, you sucker, I can't believe you. But, I read the story, and that was not my take. They worked really hard to fool this woman. And my general experience is if you try really, 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 really hard to trick people, you will often succeed. Because people are good-natured, and they want to give you what you want when you ask for it. So but for the grace of God, I think go more of us than we might think. That's all.
Robbie, you're telling me there's something, if I read this Cut story, I'm going to feel like it's legitimate that this woman put $50,000 into a shoebox and handed it to a stranger?
There were multiple people she spoke to on the phone. They provided badge numbers of FBI. It was all illegitimate, but she poked and prodded at it a little bit. And I'm not saying that, like, every single person would have fallen for this, but 1 in 10 people might fall for this, for sure. And you
all right, Robbie Suave just advertised himself as a mark. So be careful. Don't open any emails.
Have you gotten those texts from Amazon where they say your package, it's not from Amazon, don't open them?
The beauty about me,
re-update your information, that got me once.
The beauty about me, Robbie, is that I don't answer any legitimate texts or emails, and that has saved me from many a phishing scheme.
That's your excuse. You're looking out for catfishing. All right, more Rising right after this.